Kind of noisy out here today. I don't know what that truck is doing. Either it's spraying for insects, maybe it's putting some fertilizer down. Could even be something for the pools, but we'll work our way through it. Welcome to the Average Me channel. Today we're going to replace this light, and we have a couple of challenges. Let's take a look. Actually, we're not just replacing this one. You can see there's a partner over there. I don't know whoever put these lights on here in the first place. They're really cheap. It's got plastic glass in here. This is plastic up here. So here's the challenge. First of all, it's stucco. So I'm assuming it's stucco underneath, but I know it's not going to match. Fortunately, I do have paint. It also has some sealant around here. So we're gonna have to make sure that we get all of that caulk off of there. The replacing itself should be relatively easy. Remove these screws. I hope that it comes right off, but we will see. And then the other problem is going to be the base plate here is not going to match the base plate on the new light. So at the very least, we're gonna have to really clean up that caulk and then do some painting back there. As always, make sure that the power is off. Not only am I going, boy, look how my finger got a little dirty. So I'm going to not only turn off the switch, but I'm going to make sure that the breaker is turned off as well. Now this breaker is on the same circuit as a garage light, so as soon as I flip this, I think the lights are going to go out. There we go. Let's flip the switch and make sure the light's not on. And it looks like we're good, but to be safe, as soon as you get this light off, you might want to check the wires with a tester, just so we don't electrocute ourselves. So the first thing I'm going to do is slice into that caulk to try to free that seal from the wall. And I'm going to use a utility knife for that. And that looks really thick, so I don't know. This might be a bigger problem than I think. Okay, it's not too bad. I think I'm breaking it free. Okay, next we have to remove these two screws. That should be relatively easy. Unfortunately, I don't have any WD-40. I'm going to see if this works. That screw head is also just about shot, so I might have to use brute force and ignorance. Look at that, now it's coming right off. Okay, now it should be able to pull right off. Oh, that's easier than I thought. There wasn't much caulk in there at all. Now, I doubt if I can use the same brackets. Let me get the bracket to the new light and see if it matches at all. So this does not match at all. It's probably more than ½ an inch off. So pretty simple. I just have to remove these two screws from that junction box, put this new one in place. I'm going to take off as much of that silicone caulk as I can. It looks like the match is pretty good, although here, I don't know if you can see it on camera, the color's off a little bit. I do have the matching paint that we used here, so I might paint it just a little. But I'm going to scrape off as much of this as I can. I'm going to have to scrape that silicone caulk off. It's pretty old and it's coming off pretty easily. I don't think it's going to be a big problem. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to paint it. It shouldn't take very long, and we'll put the new bracket and plate on. Boy, it's getting hot. It's morning here. It's only about 8:30, but summer in Southwest Florida gets humid and it gets hot. I don't know if you can see the sweat dripping down from my forehead. So let's get to it. All right, we have our ground, we have our power, we have our neutral. So we're going to take those off. And it's off. Now let's scrape as much of this as we can. Now I could have used anything for that. Paint scraper, putty knife, wire brush, but the razor blade worked just fine. There's a lot of dirt in there, so I'm just going to wipe it down. Just using water. I'm going to have latex paint, so I'm not too concerned about it, but I want it to be kind of clean there before I put the paint on. Otherwise, I'm just painting over dirt. So here's how the new one's going to fit. So you see there's going to be a lot of that exposed, so I really do want to make sure I paint that. And I have this paint from when they painted the house, so it should be a match. They're pressure washing their driveway across the street. Everything in this neighborhood is this paving brick, and it does tend to get dirty. So we're probably not going to get away from the noise. You can see I painted. I'm going to give that a little time to dry. That'll be a good time to clean up my mess and go inside and get a cool, refreshing glass of water. So you can still see the line of caulk around here. The problem is if I scrape it off, all I'm doing is smoothing out the stucco. So I'm going to go ahead and put the light on and then come back later with another coat of paint on the outside, and I don't think it's going to be noticeable. So let's have at it. First thing we have to do is put this bracket on. This is really easy. Just screwing it into the junction box. And notice there is some latitude. You can turn this left and right, and you can adjust that up and down to get it exactly where you want. So this actually has a ground built into that, so I could take my ground and attach it, you know, to there, and then attach the ground of my light to there, or I can just put them together. I think I might go to that. That might be a good idea. I'm going to take that wire, I just bent it with my pliers. I'm going to put it in there, and then the wire from the light I'm going to put in there as well, and then we'll have our ground connected really well. I just have to put my neutral and my hot, and we're all set here. And then the challenge is to tuck that all back inside there, right? And we're going to put that on and adjust it. I'm going to make sure this is level before I tighten it up. And I can even eyeball that until it's not. Right there. It's nice and level. I'm going to put my acorn nuts on there. Okay, I got a little bit of a problem. It's not major league. You may encounter this, so let me show you the simple fix. The screw here is sticking out a lot further than the size of this nut. So what am I going to do? Well, let's take a look at the bracket. You can see that the bracket, this is just a couple of screws going through that. So I don't have to take it off and adjust it from the back. All I have to do is spin that like that, and they will retract. I'm going to take that off, and oh, this is going to be a problem because of where it falls here. All right, now we're going to have to fix it. Now there are three solutions that I can see. The simplest one, if this junction box allowed, would just be to screw these until they go deeper inside there and they're at the right depth. The second one would be to cut the screws off. So they're shorter. Third one is to get new screws. That might be the best solution, because when you cut them off, make sure that you thread them onto a nut or something first. So when you cut it off and then you take the nut off or unscrew it from whatever you screwed onto it, it will clean up the burr. And that's always an issue. I have these old screws from the previous mounting bracket. I'm going to see if this will work. Well, bad luck for me. I thought I'd use the old screw. They're about the right length. The problem is it's a different thread than the acorn screws that go on this. So I have two options. I'm gonna have to go to the hardware store and either buy a smaller bolt in this thread size, or buy a smaller bolt and then find four acorn nuts that fit whatever I find. So unfortunately, I'm making a trip to the hardware store. Quick run to the hardware store, another $4. We're back in business. All right, I'm going to tighten these up, and here comes the rain. And just like that, we're done. I do think I'm going to lay a bead of silicone caulk around this. It will hold this tighter and more secure, and it's also going to keep water from seeping back behind that plate. So what did I learn in this project? Well, one thing, never start something like this unless you know the hardware store is open. I did have to go and get myself a couple of screws because I could not turn those in. The other thing that I discovered is a rubber washer is invaluable, because even though I got a new set of screws, that acorn nut was still just a little shy. So I had a couple of rubber washers, and you can't tell to look at it. They're going to be nice and tight against water outside. It's going to seal really nice, and I think it looks great. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, it started raining here, and always have that circuit breaker turned off. You never want to work around electricity unless you know that circuit breaker is off. Never trust the light switch, especially out here. Now it's wet. Can you imagine if there was electrical current going through there? And I'm in bare feet and I was standing in water. That would have been the end of the Average Me channel. So I would imagine that somebody out there is going to have some suggestions on how to make that stucco just look a little bit better. But overall, I'm really satisfied. To look at it, unless you are really analyzing it and get up close, you're never going to notice that there was a different size plate put up there. So thanks for joining me. As always, I encourage you to like and share the videos. Leave your comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking my face in the corner. And don't forget to ring that bell icon. That way you're going to know when I post new videos. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me channel.